Hi there, my name is Pam Hart, and I'm Executive Director here at the Center for Animal Law Studies. And joining me today is Joyce Tischler, who we affectionately call the mother of animal law. Welcome, Joyce.
Thanks, Pam. It's good to be here.
Really good to have you here. And for those of you out there who don't know, Joyce has been a leading pioneer in the field of animal law. She started to get involved in the late 1970s, and she has been at it ever since. And we're so fortunate to have Joyce share her wisdom with us and to pass along her knowledge and expertise to the next generation of animal law attorneys and law students right here at the Center for Animal Law Studies, where she is a professor of practice. So with that, Joyce, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about your legacy and an exciting new program that we just started here at the Center for Animal Law Studies, which is our Animal Law Legacy Program. And with that, why don't we just go ahead and dive right in? First question, Joyce. Let's rewind. It's 1979 to be exact. You are a new law graduate and you decide you want to use your law degree to help animals. What was the legal landscape like back at that time?
Well, Pam, it was a blank canvas. There was nothing. There were no animal lawyers. There were no classes. There were no case books. It simply didn't exist, and we had to invent it from scratch. And that we did. We built a field based on the cases, and then we moved into teaching others. And today it is a vibrant and growing field of the law.
It absolutely is. And a lot of the credit absolutely goes to you. And when you talk about this blank canvas and some of the challenges, what would you say was your biggest challenge when it came to getting others outside of our small group of people to take animal law seriously?
Talking about animals as beings who have interests was a very new idea at that time, and new ideas get laughed at. So we had to buckle on our big girl panties and say, okay, we're getting laughed at, but we will persevere. And really, it's interesting, the timing was right. It was the late 70s, following upon the civil rights movement of the 60s and the feminism movement. And we were able to attract so many gifted students, law students and attorneys to this new field, and able to build it from nothing into what it is today, just by persevering, just by, head down, do the work, and do those cases and think about the animals first.
And so fast forward, it's 2020. Are people taking it seriously now? What has changed?
Oh, I think a lot has changed. Americans look at their animals as their companion animals as members of the family today, something that didn't exist all those years ago. Animals are now part of our homes, and science has also changed. Back then, we couldn't prove what people like you and I know intuitively, that animals feel pain, they have a sense of themselves, they have interests. They're not mere things, even though the legal system treats them as if they're mere things, property. And so a lot has changed, and it's enabled us to use science as well as our own intuition and compassion to do a lot more for animals today than we could do all those years ago.
And you distinguished companion animals when you just answered that question. What's
Yes.
the difference in your mind, if at all, between how we view companion animals today versus farmed animals, for example?
It's a world of difference, sadly. Companion animals have the protections of anti-cruelty laws. They're the most protected of all species. And I'm talking companion animals, dogs, cats, birds who are in the home, fish, even horses who are companion animals. Whereas farmed animals, there's no federal law at all to protect them while they are being raised. And most of them are raised in intensive confinement in horrible circumstances in factories.
Mhm. And I know that you still continue to be one of the leaders and the pioneers in the field, and I know your passion really lies with farmed animals. And you're writing a casebook. Can you tell us a little bit about this? Because in your classic style, this is again a first in our field.
This will be the first casebook solely devoted to a full semester course on farmed animal law. And it's really important because it's a bigger umbrella in that what's happening to farmed animals is terrible, but it also impacts the workers who work with them, the workers in slaughterhouses, as we're seeing with COVID-19. They are unprotected. It impacts these factory farms, impact water quality, air quality, food safety. It's a massive problem that most people are unaware of. And I want to see this taught as a full semester course in every law school in America. Today, it's only taught in maybe 3 or 4 law schools, including the course that I teach. And I think it's really important that we take this seriously and focus our energies on this. It even affects climate change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. The intersection with all the various issues that you highlighted. And I am hopeful and a firm believer that once this casebook is out, it's going to be a tremendous tool for other people who want to focus on this area and offer it at their law schools as well. When we go back again to 1970s, and you look at everything you've done and everything you've focused on in the last 40 years, the successes, the challenges, what would you say has been the most significant change you have witnessed?
Oh my goodness. I think the fact that we were able to build a movement speaks for itself. The timing was right. There were lawyers and law students that, when they heard about animal law, jumped up and said, I want to be involved. I want to help. This is my passion too. And that is so exciting. We didn't know when we started animal law that there was going to be a field. We simply were following our passion. And I consider myself a very lucky person to be able to have a career, to be able to do work. And you share this, I know, that we do work that we're passionate about. We believe in it. Very few people on the planet get that opportunity. And in teaching now, I'm trying to pay that forward to the animal lawyers of tomorrow. They're going to carry on the work that we started, and that is critically important.
Okay, speaking of teaching, you were an animal law attorney for many years. What inspired you to transition over to being a full-time professor?
I want to build the future of animal law. I won't be here forever. None of us will. We've laid a foundation. We've laid a solid foundation, and now it's up to the next generation to take over what we started and to carry it forward. And that means building more victories for the animals, building more cases in which courts acknowledge that animals have interests and that animals need greater protections. That's huge. That is my legacy, is to try to teach as many people as I can. I'm especially interested in the people who come from other countries and come to CALS, Center for Animal Law Studies, specifically to take all the courses that we offer in animal law. And those people will go back to their countries in Africa, Australia, India, Chile, Kazakhstan, China, and they will start where we started back in the 1970s. They will build from scratch in their countries. And that, I can't tell you how that excites me. I am so honored to be part of that.
And those are really fantastic examples to see how you support and how the center supports these people who are already experts in their field, going on and taking what they've learned at the Center for Animal Law Studies, implementing it, and becoming the leaders in their area. So for people who want to get involved, why would you say it is so important to ground ourselves and focus on the legal system when we're talking about affecting change?
We're talking about nothing short of transforming the legal system in how it treats and views animals. As we all know, animals are property under the law. They are things. They can be used and abused in a million different ways, and they are. What we want for the future is to offer greater protections to them, and who better and people who understand the legal system and how to utilize it. So teaching lawyers really is to put boots on the ground and create an army of advocates who can help animals now and in the future and help their interests to be considered within the legal system.
Fantastic. So you've talked a lot about legacy and your legacy with the next generation of animal law attorneys, and as they go around the globe and implement everything that you have taught them and shared with them. When you look back at your career and your legacy, and I know it's hard for me to narrow this down if I had to answer for Joyce Tischler, what is the one thing that you're most proud of when you look back and reflect on your work to protect animals?
Well, I feel lucky to have been in the right place at the right time and be able to start this movement. Um, but it takes a village, and it takes a lot of people to carry this work on. And I really am proud of what the Center for Animal Law Studies is doing to create that groundswell of attorneys who will carry this work forward. I can't think of anything more important to be doing with the remainder of my life.
Well, and we're just all so grateful, myself personally and everyone I know, for your leadership and your mentorship, and for starting a field that we all got to benefit from, and allow us, as you said earlier in our conversation, to really do something that we love, to marry our passion with our profession. And we're so lucky to know you and have you and to have this opportunity. So thank you for that, Joyce. That's a big thank you from so many of us.
And thank you back for coming along and helping and moving it forward. It takes all of us.
It really does. It really does. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the law and you think of the future and you dare to dream, how do you the hope that the law looks for animals in future days?
It is a dream that many of us share at this time. What we see today is that most animals are in a state of persistent suffering. Farmed animals are most animals on the planet, 70 billion worldwide, 9 billion just in the US, and they live and die in a state of persistent suffering. That's a huge thing to try to change, but we must. We're called to it. So what I dream of in the future is a world in which the interests of animals are considered and balanced against humans. What it is right now is that humans win every time. Their interests are considered, the animals' interests are ignored. In every way that we use animals, I think it's important for us to begin to teach America and the world that animals feel pain, they feel joy, they grieve when their members of their families and communities die, they raise their children, they are self-aware, they have so much more capacity than anyone gave them credit for 40 years ago. But science supports us now. We now know that their cognitive abilities and their emotional abilities are quite a bit more than people used to think. And so we can't stay in that world in which we use them in every possible way. We must begin to bring them into the community of compassion and see them as beings whose interests matter.
Mm-hmm. And that's fantastic. So what we're talking about, how do we move current day forward into this dream or this hope that we have for animals? And that circles us back to legacy.
Mm-hmm.
So when we started our animal law legacy here at the Center for Animal Law Studies, we immediately thought of you, Joyce. What better person to be our spokesperson for this program and to talk about legacy and why it matters. So could you tell us a little bit about the program, what it means to you, and how everybody can get involved with it and making impact for animals well into the future?
One of the things I've learned over the last 40 plus years is that a very easy way to create your legacy for animals is to put Center for Animal Law Studies into your will or your trust, because that gives us financial stability going into the future. That enables us to focus on our work to train that next generation of animal lawyers. And it's so easy to do. I hereby give and bequeath to the Center for Animal Law Studies, and then fill in the rest of that sentence. So easy, doesn't take much time to do, and is so meaningful to us because it gives us that one up that we need in times of financial instability. And economic instability is a reality in our world. We're seeing it right now, and we need to be able to move on into the future.
Thank you, Joyce. And as always, it's such a pleasure to talk to you about these issues that are so near and dear to our hearts. And is there anything that I've forgotten to talk about or ask you that you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Each of us has our legacy, and we often don't think of our lives in that way, but each of us does have our legacy. My legacy is teaching these students who are going to commit their lives to protecting animals. And your legacy can be helping us to do that. You can share our legacy and make it your own. I hope people will seriously consider that.
That's perfect. Thank you, Joyce. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you all for listening to us today. And we look forward to talking to you again, Joyce, in the near future, as well as everybody else out there. Thank you. Bye-bye.